Lisa Martinez stood at the main window of Station Gamma 7, watching space around her home for the past 3 years. The mining station floated quietly among the asteroids, its metal arms reaching out to grab rocks full of precious metals. She had been the commander here since the day it opened, and she loved this place more than anywhere else in the galaxy. The view never got old, with thousands of spinning rocks catching light from the distant sun, creating a dance of shadows and bright spots that changed every second. The coffee in her hand had gone cold an hour ago, but she kept holding it anyway. Something felt wrong today, though she could not explain what it was. Her crew of 200 people worked below, drilling and cutting and moving, or like they did every day. The sounds of their machines echoed through the station walls, a steady rhythm that usually made her feel calm. But today, that rhythm felt different. Almost like a heartbeat that was beating too fast. Jake Phillips came running up the stairs to the bridge, his face red from hurrying. He was her best mining engineer, a man who could fix anything that broke and make it work better than before. His hands were dirty from working on the ore processors, and his uniform had grease stains on it. She had never seen him look so worried. "Commander, we have a problem," he said, breathing hard. "The long-range sensors are picking up something. Big coming our way, really big." Lisa put down her coffee cup and walked to the sensor station. The screen showed dots moving toward them from deep space, too many dots to count quickly. Her heart started beating faster as she realized what she was looking at. Ships, hundreds of ships, all moving in perfect formation toward Station Gamma 7. "Are they ours?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Jake shook his head. "No. Ma'am, the computer says they are Seraphim vessels. 500 of them, maybe more." Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. The Seraphim were humanity's worst enemy. Aliens who looked like walking crystals and fought with weapons that could cut through anything. They had been at war with humans for 10 years, and every battle ended the same way. When the Seraphim showed up, humans died. "How long until they get here?" she asked. 20 minutes, maybe less? "They are moving fast." Lisa looked around the bridge at her small crew. Kate Morrison sat at the communications station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she tried to send messages to Earth. Amy Foster worked at the navigation console, plotting escape routes that they both knew would not work. These were good people, brave people, but they were miners, not soldiers. "Send the evacuation signal," Lisa ordered. "Get everyone to the escape pods now." Kate's voice came over the station speakers, calm and clear. "All personnel report to escape. Pod stations immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, all personnel report to escape pod stations immediately." Lisa could hear the sound of running feet in the corridors below as her people hurried to save their lives. She had trained them for this day, hoping it would never come. Every person on the station knew where their assigned pod was located and how to get there in less than 5 minutes, but as she watched the sensor screen, Lisa knew they were too late. The Seraphim ships were moving faster than expected, and they would arrive before the escape pods could launch. Her people were trapped, and there was nothing she could do to save them, or was there? Lisa looked out at the asteroid field surrounding the station. For 3 years, she had watched these rocks spin and dance around each other, held in place by gravity and the station's positioning systems. She knew every rock, every cave, every hidden passage between them. The mining equipment, scattered throughout the field, was designed to move these massive stones, to break them apart, to shape them into whatever form was needed. An idea began to form in her mind, crazy and dangerous and probably impossible. But it was better than sitting here waiting to die. She walked to the main control station and began typing commands into the computer. The screen showed her the locations of every piece of mining equipment in the field, from the smallest cutting drones to the huge gravity manipulators that could move asteroids the size of buildings. "Commander, what are you doing?" Jake asked. "Something stupid," she replied, her fingers moving faster across the keyboard. "Kate, how many of our people made it to the pods?" "Only 37, ma'am. The rest are still trying to get there. But the Seraphim ships are jamming our internal communications. People are getting lost in the corridors. Lisa nodded. She had expected as much. The station was big and confusing, with tunnels that led to dead ends and service shafts that went nowhere. In a panic, even people who had lived here for years could get turned around. "Forget the pods," she said. "Tell everyone to get to the core section. The walls are thicker there, and the life support systems are independent. They might survive whatever happens next. What about you, Commander?" Amy asked. Lisa looked at the sensor screen again. The Seraphim ships were so close now that she could see their individual shapes, long and sharp like crystal daggers pointed at her home. In 10 minutes, maybe less, they would be in weapons range. After that, Station Gamma 7 would become a cloud of expanding gas and metal fragments, but Lisa was not ready to give up. She had spent 3 years learning every secret of this asteroid field, every trick of the mining equipment, every way to make rocks do things they were not supposed to do. If she was going to die today, she would make the Seraphim pay for it. She turned to her crew with a smile that surprised even her. It was not the smile of someone who had given up hope. It was the smile of someone who had just realized that the game was not over yet. "I am staying here," she said. "Someone needs to operate the mining equipment, and I know these systems better than anyone. Get to the core section with the others." "That is an order." Jake, Kate, and Amy looked at each other, then back at her. They all knew what staying on the bridge meant. They also knew their commander well enough to understand that arguing with her would be a waste of time. "Good luck, ma'am," Jake said quietly. "Make them pay," Kate added. Amy just nodded and squeezed Lisa's shoulder. As her crew left the bridge, Lisa turned back to the control station. The Seraphim ships were spreading out now, forming a perfect sphere around the station. It was a standard attack formation designed to prevent any escape and ensure total destruction of the target, but they had made one mistake. They thought they were fighting a helpless mining station. Lisa's smile grew wider as she began to activate systems that had never been used for war. Admiral Vexthara stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the primitive human station grow larger on the main screen. His crystalline body reflected the blue light from the ship's displays, creating patterns of color that moved across his transparent skin. He had been hunting humans for 5 years, and this would be his easiest victory yet. One small mining station against 500 of the most advanced warships in the Seraphim fleet. "Status report," he commanded, his voice making a sound like breaking glass. "All ships are in position, Admiral. The station appears to be attempting an evacuation, but our jamming systems are preventing most of their escape pods from launching. We have detected only a few dozen pods that managed to clear the station before we arrived." Vexthara nodded. He preferred to capture humans alive when possible, but this station was too remote to be worth the effort of taking prisoners. A quick destruction would send a message to other human colonies that nowhere was safe from Seraphim justice. Begin the attack. Target their power systems first, then their life support? Make it quick? But as his ships moved closer to the station, something strange began to happen. The asteroids around the mining facility started to shift and move in ways that defied physics. Large rocks that should have been floating freely began to spin faster, changing their orbits and creating new patterns in the field. "Admiral, we are detecting unusual energy readings from the asteroid field. The humans appear to be using some kind of gravitational manipulation technology." Vexthara studied the tactical display with growing interest. The humans were doing something, but what? Their technology was primitive compared to Seraphim science, barely capable of interstellar travel. What could they possibly do with mining equipment that would threaten a battle fleet? On the bridge of Station Gamma 7, Lisa worked frantically at the control station. Her hands moved across multiple keyboards at once, sending commands to dozens of pieces of equipment scattered throughout the asteroid field. She had spent the last 3 years learning how to make rocks dance, and now she was going to make them fight. The gravity manipulators were her first weapon. These massive machines were designed to move asteroids into position for mining, using controlled gravitational fields to push and pull rocks that weighed millions of tons. Lisa had always thought of them as gentle giants, carefully nudging asteroids into the perfect spots for her mining. Drones to work on them, but Gentle could become violent with the right commands. She selected a cluster of asteroids near the edge of the field and began to accelerate them toward the approaching Seraphim ships. The rocks moved slowly at first, but as more gravity manipulators added their force to the push, they began to pick up speed. Soon, chunks of stone and metal the size of small buildings were flying through space like bullets from a massive gun. The first asteroid struck a Seraphim cruiser near the port side, punching through its crystal armor and spinning it out of control. The ship tried to stabilize itself, but two more rocks hit it before it could recover, turning the graceful vessel into a cloud of glittering debris. "Impossible," Vexthara whispered as he watched his ships try to dodge the incoming rocks. "How are they controlling so many asteroids at once?" His tactical officer's voice cracked with stress. "Admiral, the humans appear to have turned the entire asteroid field into a weapon system. We are detecting hundreds of gravitational manipulation devices, all operating in perfect coordination." More Seraphim ships were struck by the flying rocks. The asteroid field that had seemed so peaceful minutes before had become a storm of spinning stone and metal, all of it aimed at his fleet. Ships that had fought in a dozen wars found themselves helpless against chunks of rock moving at impossible speeds, but Lisa was just getting started. As the Seraphim ships tried to spread out to avoid the asteroid bombardment, she activated the second part of her defense. Hidden throughout the asteroid field were thousands of mining drones, small automated machines designed to cut and drill and shape rock. Each drone was equipped with high-powered lasers and plasma cutters for breaking apart the toughest materials under Lisa's control. These peaceful mining tools became a swarm of tiny fighters. The drones poured out of hidden caverns in service. Tunnels throughout the asteroid field, moving in coordinated groups toward the Seraphim ships. They were too small and numerous for the warship's main weapons to target effectively, but their cutting tools could slice through crystal armor if they got close enough. The first wave of drones reached the nearest Seraphim cruiser and immediately went to work. They spread out across the ship's hull, their cutting lasers flashing as they sliced through armor plating and into the vital systems underneath. The cruiser's crew tried to shake them off, rolling and spinning their ship in desperate maneuvers, but the drones clung to the hull like metal insects and kept cutting. Within minutes, the cruiser's main power systems failed, the ship went dark, and began to drift, its crew trapped inside a floating tomb. "Admiral, we have lost 7 ships and the attack has barely begun. The humans are using their mining equipment in ways we never anticipated. Our formation is breaking apart as ships try to avoid the asteroid bombardment." Vexthara watched in growing anger as his perfect battle plan fell apart. His ships were designed to fight other warships, not to dodge flying rocks and swat away tiny mining drones. The humans had turned a simple battle into something chaotic and unpredictable. "All ships, focus your fire on the station itself. Destroy the source of these attacks." But Lisa had anticipated this move. As the Seraphim weapons charged up and prepared to fire at Station Gamma 7, she activated the third layer of her defense. The ore processing plants scattered throughout the asteroid field were designed to refine raw materials into pure metals, using powerful electromagnetic systems to separate different elements. Those same electromagnetic systems could also generate massive energy pulses. Lisa triggered every ore processor in the field at the same time, creating a wave of electromagnetic interference that swept across the space around the station. Seraphim targeting systems, designed for precision warfare, suddenly found themselves blind and confused. Weapons that should have struck the station with perfect accuracy went wide, hitting asteroids or empty space instead. "What is happening to our systems?" Vexthara demanded. "Massive electromagnetic interference, Admiral. The humans are jamming our sensors and targeting computers. We cannot get a clear lock on the station." In the chaos, more asteroids found their marks. Seraphim ships collided with each other as they tried to maneuver blind through the field. Mining drones continued their relentless attacks. Cutting through hull after hull and disabling system after system, Lisa stood at her control station, sweat dripping down her face as she coordinated the defense of her home. Every screen around her showed different parts of the battle, different groups of equipment under her command. She felt like a conductor leading the most dangerous orchestra in the galaxy, with asteroids and drones and electromagnetic pulses as her instruments, but she knew this could not last forever. Her mining equipment was not designed for extended combat, and the Seraphim had hundreds of ships still in the fight. They would adapt to her tactics eventually, and when they did, her improvised defenses would crumble. She needed something bigger, something that would end this battle decisively. As she studied the readouts from the deep core scanners, an idea began to form in her mind. It was even more dangerous than anything she had tried so far, but it might be the only way to save her people. In the heart of the central asteroid, the scanners had detected a massive pocket of compressed gas held under incredible pressure by the rock around it. It was a natural formation that occurred sometimes in space, created when a gas giant exploded billions of years ago and left pockets of its atmosphere trapped in solid rock. Lisa had been planning to mine that gas eventually. It would have powered the station for decades and made everyone rich, or it could make an explosion that would be visible from 3 star systems away. She looked out at the Seraphim ships still fighting their way through her defenses and made her decision. If they wanted to destroy her home, they were going to pay a price that would make the entire galaxy remember this day. Her smile returned as she began to plan the most dangerous mining operation in human history. Deep inside Station Gamma 7, Jake Phillips crawled through a maintenance tunnel toward the power core, his tool belt clanking against the metal walls with every movement. Behind him, Kate Morrison and Amy Foster followed in single file, each carrying equipment they had never used before. The sounds of battle echoed through the station walls, vibrations from exploding ships and colliding asteroids, making the whole structure shake like an earthquake was happening in space. They had made it to the core section with the rest of the crew, just as Lisa had ordered. But when Jake heard the plan she was broadcasting through the internal communication system, he knew he could not just sit there and wait. Lisa was going to try to detonate the gas pocket in the central asteroid, and she was going to do it alone. The technical knowledge required was beyond what one person could manage, even someone as skilled as their commander. "Are we really doing this?" Amy whispered as they reached the junction that led to the main power distribution center. "The commander needs help," Jake replied, pulling out his plasma torch to cut through the locked access door. "She's trying to rewire half the station's systems while fighting a space battle at the same time. That is impossible for one person to handle." Kate checked her portable scanner and shook her head. "The power readings are all over the place. Lisa is pushing every system beyond its safety limits. If we do not help her balance the load, the whole station could lose power before she can trigger the explosion." The access door fell away with a shower of sparks, and they squeezed through into the power distribution center. Banks of control panels lined the walls, each one monitoring a different system throughout the station. Warning lights flashed red across dozens of displays, and the air smelled like burning electronics. Jake connected his portable computer to the main control system and immediately saw the problem. Lisa was trying to reroute massive amounts of power from life support and artificial gravity to feed the mining equipment in the asteroid field. At the same time, she was preparing to channel energy through systems that were never designed to handle that kind of load. "She's going to overload everything," he said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Amy, I need you to manually shut down all non-essential systems on levels 7 through 12. Kate, start rerouting power from the recreational areas and unused sections. We need to free up every watt we can find." Outside the station, the battle continued to rage. Lisa's improvised defenses were taking a heavy toll on the Seraphim fleet, but the enemy was learning fast. Admiral Vexthara had reorganized his ships into smaller groups that could move more easily through the asteroid field, and they were using their own weapons to clear paths through the flying rocks. "Status report," the Admiral commanded, his crystal form reflecting the angry red glow of his ship's emergency lighting. We have lost 43 ships, Admiral, but we are making progress. Our weapons teams have learned to target the gravitational manipulation devices, and we have destroyed 12 of them so far. The asteroid bombardment is becoming less effective. Vexthara studied the tactical display, noting the patterns in the humans' attacks. The mining drones were still swarming his ships, but they were running low on power after the extended battle. The electromagnetic interference was also weakening as the ore processors overheated and shut down one by one. The humans are running out of options, he said with satisfaction. Their equipment was not designed for combat, and it is breaking down under the strain. Continue the attack. Focus on destroying their remaining gravity manipulators. But Lisa was not finished yet. As the Seraphim ships pressed closer to the station, she activated systems that had never been used in combat before. The atmospheric recycling plants throughout the asteroid field were designed to process air for the miners working in sealed tunnels and caves. They could create breathable atmosphere from the raw materials found in space, but they could also create other types of gas, toxic gas, corrosive gas that would eat through Seraphim crystal armor like acid. Lisa triggered the emergency release valves on every atmospheric plant in the field, creating clouds of poisonous vapor that drifted between the asteroids. The Seraphim ships flew into these clouds without knowing what they contained, and their crystal hulls began to dissolve wherever the gas touched them. Admiral, we are detecting chemical weapons in the asteroid field. The gas clouds are causing structural damage to our ships. Chemical weapons? Vexthara's voice rose in pitch, a sign of extreme anger among his people. The humans are using industrial waste as a weapon against us. How dare they fight so dishonorably? But honor meant nothing to Lisa as she watched more Seraphim ships succumb to her improvised gas attack. Every ship that went dark meant fewer weapons pointed at her home and her people. She would use every tool at her disposal, no matter how crude or desperate it seemed. The conveyor systems that moved from the mining sites to the processing plants became her next weapon. These massive mechanical arms could lift tons of material and throw it across vast distances with perfect accuracy. Lisa programmed them to grab chunks of processed metal from storage areas and hurl them at the Seraphim ships like cannonballs from ancient Earth wars. Refined titanium and steel, compressed into dense blocks for easy transport, became projectiles that punched through crystal armor and shattered Seraphim hulls. The enemy ships tried to dodge, but the conveyor systems had been designed to hit moving targets in three-dimensional space. They almost never missed. In the power distribution center, Jake and his team worked frantically to keep the station's systems running under the incredible strain. Every few seconds, another overload warning would flash on their screens, and they would have to quickly reroute power before critical systems failed. The main reactor is running at 130% capacity, Amy reported, sweat streaming down her face. We are way beyond safe operating parameters. Keep it running, Jake ordered. Lisa needs every bit of power we can give her. If the reactor shuts down now, we lose everything. Kate looked up from her control station with worry in her eyes. Jake, I am reading massive energy buildup in the central asteroid. Lisa is really going to try to detonate that gas pocket. Do you think it will work? Jake paused in his typing and considered the question. The gas pocket was huge, containing enough compressed material to power a small city for years. If it exploded all at once, the energy release would be beyond anything he had ever calculated. It might destroy the entire Seraphim fleet, or it might destroy everything in the asteroid field, including Station Gamma 7. I do not know, he said honestly. But I trust her. Lisa has never let us down before. On the bridge, Lisa was making the final preparations for her desperate gambit. The gas pocket lay deep inside the central asteroid, protected by layers of solid rock that would normally take months to drill through, but she did not have months. She had minutes before the Seraphim fleet adapted completely to her defenses and overwhelmed the station. She activated every mining laser in the asteroid field and focused them on a single point on the central rock surface. Beams of concentrated energy that were designed to cut through the hardest materials began to slice into the stone, creating a tunnel that led straight toward the compressed gas at the heart of the asteroid. The rock glowed white-hot as the lasers burned through it, vaporizing countless tons of material in seconds. Deeper and deeper they cut, following a precise path that Lisa had calculated to create maximum explosive force while directing the blast away from the station. "Come on," she whispered, watching the depth readings on her screen. Just a little more." The Zeraphim ships were closing in now, their weapons charging for a final assault on the station. They had learned to avoid most of her traps and were moving in formation toward their target. Admiral Vexthara's flagship led the attack, its crystal hull reflecting the light from the burning asteroids around it. "Admiral, the human station appears to be concentrating its remaining firepower on the central asteroid. We do not understand why they are wasting their energy on that target." Vexthara studied the readings with growing suspicion. The humans had been full of surprises so far, and he did not trust their apparently foolish decision to ignore his approaching ships. "What is inside that asteroid?" he demanded. "Standing now, Admiral. We are detecting a large cavity in the center, filled with compressed gas under extreme pressure. If that gas were to be released suddenly, it would create a significant explosion." The Admiral's crystal eyes widened as he realized what the humans were planning. It was insane, desperate, and exactly the kind of tactic he should have expected from these unpredictable creatures. "All ships, emergency acceleration. Get us away from that asteroid immediately." It was too late. Lisa's mining lasers had finally burned through the last layer of rock protecting the gas pocket. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the compressed gas began to escape through the narrow tunnel, building pressure as it rushed toward the surface. Lisa opened a communication channel to the Zeraphim fleet, her voice calm and confident despite the chaos around her. "Admiral, this is Commander Lisa Martinez of Station Gamma 7. You brought 500 ships to destroy my home and kill my people. I hope it was worth it because you are about to learn why humans." The central asteroid erupted like a star being born. The compressed gas that had been trapped for billions of years suddenly found freedom through Lisa's carefully drilled tunnel, and it exploded outward with the force of 1,000 nuclear weapons. But this was not a random explosion. Lisa had calculated every angle, every force vector, every possible outcome before she triggered the detonation. The gas pocket was shaped like a giant teardrop inside the rock, and when it exploded, the natural crystal formations in the asteroid acted like a focusing lens. Instead of expanding in all directions, the blast was channeled into a directed beam of pure destruction that swept across the space where the Zeraphim fleet was positioned. Admiral Vexthara watched in horror as the energy wave approached his ships. His flagship was fast, faster than any human vessel, but not fast enough to outrun an explosion that moved at nearly the speed of light. The wave hit his forward ships first, and they simply vanished. Not destroyed, not shattered, but completely vaporized as if they had never existed at all. "Emergency hyperspace jump," he commanded, his crystal voice cracking with fear. All ships jumped to hyperspace immediately. But hyperspace engines needed time to charge, and the Zeraphim fleet did not have time. The explosion continued to expand, a wall of energy that consumed everything in its path. Ship after ship disappeared into the blazing light. 300 vessels destroyed in the first 10 seconds of the blast. On Station Gamma 7, Lisa held onto her control console as the shockwave hit her home. The station's shields flared to life, systems that were designed to protect against asteroid impacts and solar flares now straining to deflect the edge of an explosion that dwarfed anything they had ever faced. The lights flickered and went out, then came back on emergency power as Jake's team fought to keep critical systems running. The structure groaned and twisted, but it held. Lisa's calculations had been perfect. The explosion was directed away from the station, and while the shockwave was still powerful enough to shake them like a child's toy, it was not strong enough to destroy them. Outside, the asteroid field was transformed into a blazing hellscape. Rocks that had floated peacefully for millions of years were now spinning chunks of molten metal, their surfaces glowing white-hot from the energy that had washed over them. The mining equipment that Lisa had used so effectively was gone, vaporized along with most of the asteroids, but it had served its purpose. Where 500 Seraphim ships had been moments before, now only empty space remained. The explosion had caught most of the fleet in perfect formation, exactly as Lisa had planned. Admiral Vexthara's flagship survived, along with perhaps 50 other ships that had been at the edge of the formation when the blast occurred, but they were damaged and scattered. "Status report," Vexthara demanded, though his voice was barely a whisper now. 447 ships destroyed, Admiral. 53 ships still operational, but most have suffered severe damage. Engineering reports that our hyperspace engines are offline. The energy pulse from the explosion has disrupted our power systems. The Admiral stared at the empty space where his fleet had been. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The humans had turned a mining station into a fortress and an asteroid into a weapon of mass destruction. They had fought with tools instead of weapons, with desperation instead of strategy, and they had won, but the battle was not over yet. Lisa's explosion had destroyed most of the Seraphim fleet, but the surviving ships were still dangerous. And, now her own defenses were gone, vaporized along with the mining equipment she had used so effectively. Station Gamma 7 was defenseless, and she knew the enemy would not make the same mistakes twice. She activated the internal communication system and spoke to her crew. Her voice carried throughout the station to every person who had survived the explosion. "This is Commander Martinez. We have just destroyed most of the Seraphim fleet, but some ships remain. They will try to finish what they started, and we do not have the equipment to stop them the same way twice. But we are not giving up. We are humans, and humans do not surrender." In the core section, 200 people listened to their commander's words and felt hope returning to their hearts. They had watched the explosion through the station's cameras, seen their enemies consumed by fire and energy. If Lisa could destroy 400 ships with mining equipment, what could they do together with whatever was left? Jake Phillips looked up from his makeshift repair station where he was trying to restore power to the upper levels. "What do we do now, Commander?" Lisa's voice came back over the speakers, and even though they could not see her, everyone could hear the smile in her words. "We improvise." The surviving Seraphim ships were regrouping, their formation loose and ragged compared to the perfect sphere they had maintained before the explosion. Admiral Vexthara's flagship limped toward the station, its crystal hull cracked and blackened from the energy wave that had nearly destroyed it. "Admiral, should we attempt another assault on the station?" his tactical officer asked. Vexthara considered the question carefully. His fleet was broken, his ships damaged, and his crew shaken by what they had witnessed. The humans had already proven that they could not be underestimated, and he had no idea what other surprises they might have prepared. But he also knew that if he retreated now, if he allowed a single mining station to defeat the largest Seraphim battle fleet ever assembled, his military career would be over. His people would see him as a coward who ran from primitive humans armed with industrial equipment. "We attack," he decided. But carefully this time. No formations, no predictable patterns. Each ship approaches the station independently and targets a different section. They cannot surprise us again if we do not give them concentrated targets. The remaining Seraphim ships spread out across the space around Station Gamma 7, moving in random patterns that would make it impossible for Lisa to predict their movements or concentrate her fire. It was a sound strategy, the kind of approach that should have been used from the beginning, but Lisa was not finished yet. As the enemy ships approached, she activated systems that most people did not even know existed on the station. The waste disposal units that processed garbage and recycled materials became projectile launchers, shooting compressed cubes of trash at velocities that turned them into deadly weapons. The water recycling systems became chemical weapons factories, producing clouds of corrosive vapor that ate through crystal armor, Even the artificial gravity generators that kept everyone's feet on the floor became weapons in Lisa's hands. She reversed their polarity and focused their force on the approaching ships, creating gravitational anomalies that pulled the vessels off course and slammed them into each other. How is this possible? Vexthara screamed as he watched his carefully planned attack dissolve into chaos once again. How can they turn every system on their station into a weapon? His science officer, an elderly crystal being who had served in the fleet for longer than most humans had been alive, shook his head in amazement. Admiral, I believe we are witnessing something that our strategic computers never anticipated. These humans are not fighting according to any known military doctrine. They are using pure creativity and desperation, turning peaceful tools into instruments of war through sheer force of will. More Zeraphim ships fell to Lisa's improvised defenses. The survivors found themselves trapped in a maze of gravitational fields and chemical clouds, their advanced weapons useless against an enemy who refused to fight fair. But slowly, inevitably, Lisa's makeshift systems began to fail. The station's equipment was never designed for this kind of abuse, and each improvised weapon could only function for a short time before burning out or breaking down completely. As her defensive options dwindled, Lisa made a decision that would have seemed insane to any military strategist in the galaxy. Instead of trying to destroy the remaining ships, she would capture them. The station's docking arms were designed to grab and manipulate large objects in space, bringing cargo ships and supply vessels safely into the station's bays. They were not weapons, but in Lisa's hands, they became something entirely new. She extended the massive mechanical arms toward the nearest Zeraphim ship and grabbed it like a child picking up a toy. The vessel's crew fired their weapons desperately, but the docking arms armor was designed to withstand asteroid impacts. The ship found itself pulled inexorably toward the station, its crystal hull cracking under the pressure of the mechanical grip. Surrender, Lisa broadcast on all frequencies. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated as prisoners of war according to galactic law. Continue fighting, and I will crush your ships like tin cans. One by one, the remaining Zeraphim vessels powered down their weapons and transmitted surrender codes. Admiral Vexthara's flagship was the last to give up, its proud commander finally accepting that he had been defeated by a human mining station and the most creative military mind he had ever encountered. As the battle ended and silence returned to the space around Station Gamma 7, Lisa Martinez stood on her bridge and looked out at the captured enemy ships. Floating in the gravitational embrace of her docking arms, she was still smiling. The silence that followed the battle felt strange after hours of explosions and weapons fire. Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of Station Gamma 7, watching as her docking arms held the surrendered Zeraphim ships in their mechanical grip. 53. Enemy vessels floated around her home like captured birds, their crystal hulls reflecting the light from the burning debris that had once been the rest of their fleet. Admiral Vexthara's voice came through the communication system, filled with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. Commander Martinez, I am Admiral Vexthara of the Zeraphim Imperial Fleet. I formally surrender my remaining ships and crew to you. We request to be treated according to the laws of war. Lisa activated her response channel, her voice calm despite the exhaustion that was beginning to set in. Admiral, this is Commander Martinez. Your surrender is accepted. You and your crews will be treated fairly and according to galactic law. But I want you to understand something before we proceed. She paused, looking out at the devastation around the station, where hundreds of asteroids had once floated in peaceful orbits. Now only glowing chunks of molten rock remained. The mining equipment that had been her livelihood for 3 years was gone, vaporized in the explosion that had saved her home. You came here with 500 ships to destroy a peaceful mining station and kill 200 innocent people. You thought we would be easy targets because we are not soldiers? You were wrong. In the command center of his damaged flagship, Admiral Vexthara listened to the human's words and felt something he had never experienced before in his long military Career, shame, he had brought the largest fleet in Zeraphim history to crush a single mining station, and he had been defeated by a woman with mining equipment and an unbreakable will to survive. "How did you do it?" he asked, his crystal voice barely above a whisper. "Our military computers ran thousands of simulations before this attack. None of them predicted that you could turn industrial equipment into weapons of war." Lisa's laugh echoed through the communication channel, not mocking but genuinely amused. "Admiral, your computers made the same mistake you did. They assumed we would fight like soldiers, with weapons and tactics and military formations. But we are not soldiers. We are miners, engineers, and builders. We solve problems for a living, and you were just another problem that needed solving." Throughout the station, Lisa's crew began to emerge from the core section where they had taken shelter during the battle. Jake Phillips led the first group back to the bridge, his face streaked with sweat and his hands black with grease from the emergency repairs he had performed during the fight. Kate Morrison and Amy Foster followed close behind, along with dozens of other miners and technicians who had survived the impossible battle. "Commander," Jake said as he reached Lisa's side, "the power systems are stabilized and we have restored life support to all sections. Casualties are minimal, just a few people injured when the shockwave hit us." Lisa nodded, relief flooding through her body. Her people were safe. That was all that mattered. The station could be repaired, the mining equipment could be replaced, but the lives of her crew were irreplaceable. "What about the prisoners?" Kate asked, gesturing toward the captured Zeraphim ships. "We will transfer them to the cargo bays in small groups," Lisa replied. "Their ships are damaged and their life support systems are failing. We cannot leave them to die, no matter what they came here to do to us." Amy looked out at the destroyed asteroid field with sad eyes. "What happens now, Commander?" "The mining operation is finished. There is nothing left to mine." Lisa followed her gaze, studying the glowing remnants of what had once been a thriving industrial complex. The asteroids were gone, the equipment was destroyed, and the gas pocket that could have powered the station for decades had been turned into a weapon. By any reasonable measure, Station Gamma 7 was finished as a mining operation, but as she looked at the debris field, Lisa saw something else. The explosion had not just destroyed the asteroids, it had also exposed rare minerals and metals that had been hidden deep inside the rocks for billions of years. The energy from the blast had transformed common stone into valuable materials that were worth more than anything they had mined before. "Amy, run a spectral analysis of the debris field," she ordered. "I want to know exactly what is floating out there." While Amy worked at her scanner, Lisa opened a new communication channel to Earth Command. It was time to report what had happened at Gamma 7, and she knew that her report would change everything. "Earth Command, this is Commander Lisa Martinez of Station Gamma 7. I am reporting a successful defense against a major Zeraphim assault. Enemy force consisted of 500 ships. 447 ships destroyed, 53 ships captured along with their crews." The response from Earth Command was immediate and filled with disbelief. "Station Gamma 7, please repeat your last transmission. Did you say you engaged 500 enemy ships?" "Confirmed, Earth Command. We engaged and defeated a Zeraphim battle fleet using improvised weapons and tactics. I am transmitting full tactical data now. You need to see this." As Lisa uploaded the recordings from the battle, she could imagine the shock and amazement of the military officers who would review the footage. They would see mining equipment turned into weapons, asteroids used as projectiles, and a single human woman smiling in the face of impossible odds. Admiral Vexthara's voice interrupted her. "Thoughts?" "Commander Martinez, my science officer has been analyzing your tactics during our battle. He believes that what you accomplished here today will change the way wars are fought throughout the galaxy. You have proven that creativity and determination can overcome superior technology and numbers." "Admiral, I hope you are wrong," Lisa replied. "I hope that what happened here today will convince your people and mine that war is too dangerous and too unpredictable to be worth fighting. We should be working together to build something better, not destroying each other over territory and resources." Amy looked up from her scanner with excitement in her eyes. Commander, you need to see this. The debris field is full of rare Earth elements, crystallized metals, and energy-conducting materials. The explosion created a treasure trove of valuable resources that would take decades to mine using conventional methods. Lisa smiled, the same confident smile that had carried her through the darkest moments of the battle. Station Gamma 7 would survive after all. They would rebuild, stronger and better than before, and the story of their victory would spread throughout human space. But more importantly, the battle had proven something that would echo through history. Humans might not have the most advanced technology or the largest fleets, but they had something that no computer could simulate and no enemy could predict. They had the ability to adapt, to improvise, to find hope in hopeless situations and solutions in impossible problems. As the rescue ships from Earth began to arrive and the captured Seraphim crews were processed as prisoners of war, Lisa stood on her bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other mining stations and colonies were preparing their defenses, inspired by what a single woman had accomplished with nothing but mining equipment and an unbreakable will. The war with the Seraphim would continue, but it would never be the same. The enemy had learned that humans could not be underestimated, that every peaceful station and quiet colony might hide the next impossible victory, and throughout the galaxy, the story would be told of the mining station commander who faced 500 ships with a smile and taught the universe that sometimes the most human thing you can do is refuse to give up. No matter how impossible the odds might seem, Lisa Martinez had saved her home, her people, and her pride. But more than that, she had given humanity something precious, proof that they could win against any enemy, no matter how powerful, as long as they never stopped fighting and never stopped believing in themselves. The Battle of Station Gamma 7 was over, but its legacy would last forever.